Hello, everyone. I wish to welcome you all to the second program of our Business Sustainability webinar series, The Secret of Sustainability in Business, Looking into the Future with the Next Leader. My name is Yuko Kaifu, and I'm the president of Japan House Los Angeles. It's a great pleasure for us to present this program in collaboration with the Research Institute for the Centennial Management in Japan. I also wish to acknowledge and thank Kika Hanazawa, board chair of Fashion Girls for Humanity and CEO of BPL, for her precious advice and introductions. Before I begin the program, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping notes. Please turn your attention to the screen. Everyone except for the speakers will be muted and videos are turned off. The audience chat is activated, so please stay engaged throughout the program. Please use the Q&A bar at the bottom of your screen to send in questions anytime during the program. We'll try to cover as many questions as the time allows. So please send in your questions to the Q&A bar as opposed to the chat box. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the Japan House LA website in near future. I think this is a marvelous chance to highlight that sustainability is just as much about the future as it is the past. This is just as much about the spirit and ideas of the next generation as how the past generations have done things. And that is just as much or more about female CEOs as male predecessors. And so today we've chosen to spotlight a leader who symbolizes all of that, and who is so graciously willing to be open with us as a community that cares deeply about the secret of sustainability in business, about her own experiences, challenges, and hopes. The name of this perfect speaker today is Ms. Nami Yamamoto, who is the 11th generation of the founding family of Yamamotoyama Company. She's currently the CEO of Yamamotoyama U.S.A. and is expected to be the CEO of this global and family-owned company in the future. Before we invite Nami-san and Professor Ethan Bernstein, who is going to moderate the discussion today, to dive deeply into the case study of her leadership, past, present, and future at Yamamotoyama, I'd like to ask Professor Toshio Goto, our expert in centuries-old businesses, to share with us more background on the topic. Professor Goto is a representative director at Research Institute for Centennial Management. He's also a professor at Graduate School of Management of Japan University of Economics. Goto-sensei, can you please paint the landscape of what it has meant for centuries-old business to be innovative in order to achieve sustainability? Do most of them do well? What are their strengths and weaknesses? Could you please take 5 minutes to give us a broader background so that we would be able to better understand the specific details and examples that Nami-san is going to share with us today? Goto-sensei?
Thank you very much, Kaifu-san. Let me have a very quick overview of Centennial firms in Japan, focusing on tradition. I spent the last 2 decades to find out how many Centennial firms do exist in Japan, and the result is, as shown here, I found more than 52,000 firms in operation over a century, including those. To my amaze, I found 21 firms in operation over 1,000 years, starting with Kongogumi, as you can see on the right top, which started business back in the year of 578, concentrating in the same business, in contrast to Nintendo. I observe long-lived companies symbolize Japanese management style, either in management, technology, and marketing, with a fusion of tradition and innovation to have sustainability. You can see here, vertically, the market development, starting with original to the peripheral and to new market. Horizontally, starting from original technology into peripheral and also to new technology. So some companies stayed in the same market and technology. Others move into peripheral, and some others move into new area. Our research shows that 49% or almost half of all Centennial firms do move into peripheral, either in market and or product. Another 32% there to move into new area. And only 19% of Centennial firms in Japan stay in the same market with the same technology. Just like Kongogumi, as I said, they concentrate in the wooden building, in contrast to Mario or Nintendo, I mean. Example here, they started in Kyoto, small area, as you may be familiar with, old town, with playing card, moving into electronics, nationally and to globally switch, as you know. I like to introduce some classical essay written about the tradition and innovation. Tradition of Centennial firms means continuous innovation. Quote, tradition always gives off a new glow by cherishing it every day and continuing to polish it. If we settle for the status quo and stagnate for even a day, tradition will surely become obsolete. Therefore, we must constantly breathe new life. If new means today's newness, it becomes already obsolete tomorrow. By pursuing daily newness, there is no time to stabilize at any time. It's not good. Rootless floating grass seems to be prospering for a while, but once it is washed away by water, it disappears without knowing its whereabouts, unquote. This is the quote of 3 requisite conditions for the long-lived firms in Kyoto. Number 1, always continue to innovate. 2, always develop human resources. 3, always strive to serve the community. I have many things to say about innovation, but I'd like to reserve it till the completion of Mina's beautiful presentation and the dialogue with Ethan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Goto-sensei, for putting us into perspective and providing us with the background, which was very interesting. So now I'd like to ask Nami Yamamoto and Professor Ethan Bernstein to start their dialogue. For those of you who watched our first program, Professor Bernstein needs no introduction. Those of you who are watching us this webinar for the first time, Professor Bernstein is Associate Professor in the Organizational Behavior Unit at the Harvard Business School. He earned his PhD in management at Harvard, where he also received a joint degree in law and business administration. During his college year at Amherst College, he spent some time in Japan studying at Doshisha University in Kyoto, my favorite city as well. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Ethan and Nami-san to take the floor. Please take it away.
Yuko, thank you so much for that introduction. And Nami, I'm really looking forward to this discussion, as I think are over 200 people with us. So thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today.
So given this large audience we have, I think they're all here to hear from you, not from me. So let's dive in. I want to start, when we first met to prepare for these discussions, you said that you'd be happy to speak not just about the company, but also about yourself as a leader. So if you don't mind, let's start with you and then turn to this amazing company that you lead. Given Yamamotoyama is a tea company as well as other things, many of us, myself included, are avid tea drinkers. Of course, my first question, we all want to know, and we teased it in the marketing of this, what tea are you drinking today?
Well, I think that's easy to guess for everyone. I am drinking sencha green tea. It's already half empty. I brew this sencha green tea with my favorite Kyushu teapot I have here today. And that gives me a power to enter the conversation today. Many of you might know us a nori seaweed company in Japan, but actually we are the pioneer for Japanese green tea, sencha, which was discovered 300 years ago. So I am so excited to talk about that today.
Excellent. And I'm excited to talk with you about it. I am curious, we did suggest that everybody bring their own tea. Today I am drinking here, you can almost see it, my lemon ginger from Stash.
That's my favorite too.
Perfect for this time of year. Perfect for this time of year. If you are drinking one of Nami's teas, please go ahead and tell us in the chat so we know what your choices are and tell us why, what it tells us about you. But since we've only gotten a small sliver, Nami, about you from that, a couple more questions. Let's just do a lightning round here. It's one of the things I often do in my class, lightning round of questions. Just almost like fill in the blank. So Nami, you were born in?
I was born in Tokyo and grew up in Tokyo until 18. So I'm 100% Japanese. I am not hybrid mix or double or half, anything like how you call it. I was interested in studying abroad, so I went to Hawaii for ESL classes to study. But I ended up choosing small liberal arts college in Idaho, actually, to look something different. So I spent 4 years in Idaho, graduated from there and came back to Japan and spent a couple of years, but eventually got married. And I moved to Los Angeles, where I'm located right now. And I got married 5 years ago, and I have 2 small children. They are so cute, but little cute monsters, I have to say, and 2 years old and 3 years old.
Well, I will say I'm 0% Japanese on the outside, but 100% on the inside. And that was so thank you. That's a great start. So I'm curious then, your first job was?
My first job was actually Miko-san. I don't know if you know Miko. That girl, the lady, I would say lady, that when you go to temple or shrine in Oshogatsu, the New Year's, you see them serving for you. That's Miko-san. I don't know if there's any other way to say it.
I don't think there is. Why was that your first job?
I wanted to do something different. I can work at a convenience store or somewhere else, but I just wanted to do something different and more cultural experience. And I learned a lot inside Miko-san's job, that how to actually say to the God. You have some other phrase to use when you're serving for God. And that was really interesting cultural experience, I have to say. I really enjoyed it.
Fabulous. So fast forward then, you graduate from college and you join the company, right? Just to give us a quick background on the progression you've had within the company since then.
I was in Japan for a couple of years, communication between Japan and USA, because I was speaking English pretty well at that time. And then I eventually moved to USA and kind of learned from the scratch, what do we do here? And I was more focusing on the marketing though. I was good at graphic design and I was good at making a website. So I focused on that and marketing, but eventually I took over the company about 10 years ago.
More questions, then we'll get into the company. These are sort of fun, crazy questions. So I guess my first one, if you could have a superpower, what would it be, Nami?
Superpower. Do you know Doraemon?
Of course.
The comic? I think everyone knows. I'm a huge fan of it. I wish I could have Dokodemo door. When you open the door, you can go anywhere you want to. Do you know that one?
I do. So where would you go if you could?
Right now, I want to go back to Tokyo so badly, like with my kids, without quarantine, without getting tested for COVID. That would be great. I miss Tokyo, Japan. It's a great place to go back.
We all need a Dokodemo door. And then I guess my last question, so we've talked about tea, but what's your favorite thing to eat? Tell us what goes with the tea.
If I have to choose something to eat before I die, I have to choose miso soup and rice. I was actually sick a couple days the weekend, and only thing I wanted to eat was just miso soup and rice, just something simple and good. But I always also like fruits. I didn't realize that California has so good produce here in California, and also vegetable too. And that's something I didn't know when I was living in Tokyo, that California fruits are amazing. So I just like simple stuff, something very organic, natural, simple, and good that makes you happy.
Thank you. And so that was lovely. I think we're starting to get a little bit of a painting of you, the cultural side, the background side, and then of course your interest in simple things and yet complementary things, and how that might fit within the marketing and work, amazing design work. You can see it behind her, design work you've done for the company. But let's then talk a little bit about the company, if that's okay. What should we know, Nami, about Yamamotoyama? Tell us more.
So I prepared a really quick slide, a lot of visuals. So I'm gonna go really quick. So let's start with our mission and vision. So when I came to the United States about 10 years ago, I was surprised to see that there was no mission statement in the US. And there was in Japan, and people remembering it in Japan, but it wasn't here. And here, people are great. We have a great culture. There was no clear direction or goals or mission or vision that we can just look after. together. So it was my passion to create a mission and vision statement, more like a translating it into US culture. So our mission is pretty new, and our mission is to delight consumers one sip, one bite, one exciting experience at a time. I want to stop here a little bit, and everyone here, imagine your favorite food or drink, anything you want. Imagine that in front of you. You just had your favorite food. That was amazing one. And think of it, what does it tell in your mouth? Like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And I want to share this everyone around me. I want to tell my mom, I want to tell my boyfriend, everybody. That moment, when we achieve the moment with you, with our tea or seaweed, that is when our mission is accomplished with you. So that's how you read our mission. And our vision is, through our innovation and 3 centuries of experience, we strive to disrupt and elevate foods and beverages for generations to come. I always emphasize disrupt and elevate for generations to come. So over 330 years, we have been elevating tea standard, and we are going to do so the same for the next generations. And hopefully in our history slide, you can see how we have been elevating our standards.
And just out of here, I mean, you mentioned that they didn't have a mission statement in the United States. How did this, tell us a little bit about how the team took to this? Because does this feel like it was coming in from Japan, or did this feel like it was being grown here?
It was coming from Japan, but it's coming from the Yamamoto family's DNA. The history book we have, it's something I could only done in the United States. I wouldn't let anybody to do it, but it's coming not from me, it's coming from the whole team. We took a 3 days intensive course and put words together and describe our company, and we hear from each employees, and we created this beautiful sentence, but it was a lot into it.
As I delight myself here one sip at a time, maybe you can dive a little bit deeper then into what makes that history so special, what makes the company so special. So we understand a little bit of what was the basis for that process. You know, from what you've told me in the past, tea is both an art and a science. I'm tasting both right now. And we have a marvelously diverse audience today, based on what I'm told the 187 people who are currently on do in the background. Some of them are artists, some of them are scientists. So I know it's difficult to capture 330 years in a couple minutes, but can you try?
Sure. So let me go through our history a little bit though. So this is 330 years in one page. So I'm gonna go again really quick. We established a tea shop in Tokyo in 1690. The next one is big. 1738, we discovered the magic of green tea. And this is something that you've been asking for. The magic was a steaming tea leaves. And it sounds odd, like why steaming tea leaves is something that's a magic. Back in that time, it was something unusual. And we discovered steaming tea leaves makes tea actually delicious and keeps all nutrient and keeps us going. And that basically became a standard of current green tea called sencha. It was an incident, but also it was innovations, it was discovery, it was arts and all the class all coming together to the moment, I have to say. And 1835, we keep innovating the quality of green tea and basically invented ultra premium green tea called Gyokuro. How many of you know Gyokuro? If any audience knows about Gyokuro and have you tasted it, and that'd be great, just raise your hand. Like, I'm curious to know how many people actually had Gyokuro before. And I'm gonna keep going meanwhile. Next one. So after World War II, in 1947, we started selling nori seaweed, and I'm going to explain in a later slide why we had nori seaweed as our family business. The next point was 1963, we introduced tea bag to Japan. And nowadays, tea bag is common, but back in the day, the tea bag was crazy idea. Like, why we have to drink tea in a tea bag? So it was something new for everyone. And the next, we established Brazil Tea Garden in the 70s. 75, we have established Yamamotoyama U.S.A. here where I am in Los Angeles. And lastly, in the 80s, we start invested in Stash Tea and fully acquired in 1993, Centennial drinking Stash Tea lemon ginger. So that's where it's coming from. In the next slide, I want to emphasize how we've been elevating tea standard. And I hope your audience that you can get to see how we keep elevating a standard through our innovation and high quality standard we have. So before 1738, the tea was not really drinkable or accessible. Back in the days, tea wasn't green, tea wasn't easy to drink. It was for medicinal reason. And this steaming process, I call it magic, make it delicious and drinkable. That became a standard of nowadays called sencha. And we keep innovating, just looking for highest quality of green tea, how to enjoy this green tea much better. How can we make this sip even better every day? And that became Gyokuro. And again, the tea bag was something new in 1963, but we introduced it. And nowadays that became also a standard of drinking green tea. The seaweed, however, has an interesting story.
Nami, before you go to the seaweed, just so you know, you have at least 6 or 7 people who say that Gyokuro, that they know what it is. And in fact, one of them says it's their favorite. Emmanuel is a favorite of Gyokuro.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I wish I can just serve Gyokuro and give it to you right here. I hope the technology will allow us in the future.
Please go ahead. Tell us about the move towards seaweed.
So seaweed actually wasn't common at all in our home. It was also made accessible by my grandfather, delivered to everyone, and eventually contributed to sushi culture. And I have to say, it was a whole business continuity reason. Because of World War II, tea was restricted to sell by the government, and we had no revenue. Basically, we couldn't sell tea at that time. So they have to look for the different revenue source and eventually end up in a nori. The nori was available in that neighborhood to sell. So that was also the business continuity reason. And I would say that's very similar to pandemic nowadays, that we didn't suffer as much compared to other industries for pandemic, but pandemic made some industries, some people to force and drive something else, shift to some different opportunities. And I think that was exactly it. The crisis made us stronger in a different way and look for something else that we can survive. So I would say it's a big learning from World War II and looking for different revenue sources as a non-seaweed.
Nami, if I pause on that for a moment, because in the pre-poll questions, Doug, who I think is with us, had asked if there was a time in the history of the company that the future was in doubt. So this is one of those times when the future was actually in doubt.
Our revenue was so low and just we couldn't survive. We couldn't support my family.
And the innovation, I mean, this ties so beautifully with what Goto Sensei started us with in terms of talking about innovation, but I'm sure stories are told. Like, what was it like to be Yamamoto ninth at that point? It must have been difficult.
Well, he was young at that time, so he told me the story from his lens. His dad and he struggled together, and he doesn't speak as much as a stubborn Japanese man, but they have to look something else to survive, and it was really difficult for them. He had to go to war sometimes, and it was live or die.
And yet they made it, and they made it with this sort of seed of innovation. And many people know the company now for its nori as opposed to for its tea sometimes.
Right, and they made our nori really popular, actually.
Fascinating. Sorry, please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought that was a nice chance.
Thank you. So a little bit about our company. Our flagship store is on the right side, new one, but left one is, I don't think it's original. This is the oldest picture we have. Everything was born in World War II. So this is the original store, and our new store, Fujie Sabo, opened in 2018. And we are in the same spot since the beginning, since we moved to Nihonbashi, actually. I think many of you that are from Japan, we are more B2C in Japan. We have a lot of retail booths in department food court and only selling green tea and seaweed. Yamamotoyama U.S.A. is established in 1975, and we are mainly B2B, selling to Japanese and Asian restaurants worldwide. But we also have a very strong B2C positioning Asian grocery channel. And we have tea blending, packaging, nori roasting, and wrapper production. But we own the facility here in Los Angeles. This is some of the products that we have in the retail. So this is our tea garden that actually my grandfather also made it possible. This is near San Paulo, con San Miguel. But this was the ideal climate for Japanese style green tea. And lastly, I have Stash Tea. They are originally from Portland, Oregon, and they have so much flavor. As you can see in my bag, they have like lemon ginger, chai spice, some crazy flavor, like a turmeric chai. They have a variety of flavors. And we are certified as a B Corp. We are proud to have this brand as well. Hopefully you can see who we are and how we keep elevating a tea standard and how Nori became a part of our family. And it's pretty amazing to see the history, 330 years, but I hope you can get to see a little bit of it.
I was just thrilled to see my tea appear on that last page. How did you know to put lemon ginger there? We have actually a number of questions about what you've already told us, but I want to go at least 1 or 2 steps further before we go to those. Because you are the CEO of Yamamotoyama U.S.A, and you mentioned you sort of ended there on U.S.A. And one of the questions that came up in the last seminar that I think still remains on people's minds, how does this 300 years of history, or 330 years of history, help or hinder you abroad? You have the global presence in Brazil, you have the global presence here. Can you speak just a little bit to how what the family's learned that sort of sits on your shoulders or under your feet, whichever way you think about it, has contributed to the art and science of doing this work with Stash and other in the United States?
Sure. I don't know if I'm answering your questions directly, but let me know. Please interrupt. I would say we are lucky to be in the food industry where we can influence and evolve with a different culture. Like our standard and our lifestyle, keeps changing every day, and the speed of that change in lifestyle becomes much faster, as we become more global. That's how I feel like. And I would say, our family and ancestors really enjoyed the challenge and the fast changing environment and always adapting to the change. Like, what is our people in our community want right now? Like, how can we make them happy? How can I make you happy? Is my tea, is my seaweed. And that's very simple to keep asking those questions, and very simple rules, like stick with our core mission. Like, my family has this mission, and do the right things that make sense to you. That's it. And don't go crazy, like, different industry, like robotics or for us, something else that's not our core. Always stick with a green tea and seaweed, and that's it. And don't do anything else that's crazy. That's how can make, ourselves happy and you happy.
I'm curious to follow on to that. So Kento Nakamura asked, how did the company decide to acquire Stash in the first place? So as you think about that statement, why acquire another tea company in the United States like Stash?
Well, we had a presence in Los Angeles, and we had this tea bag machine. So we actually started to co-pack for them. If you kind of know the tea industry, the traditional medicinals, we used to co-pack for them as well. But eventually, Stash Tea became a huge customer for us for co-packing business. And eventually, that kind of made sense to acquire because we are just packing for them almost like 100%. And we still do a lot of their business. So it kind of makes sense for us that time. But actually, to your point, that we didn't have a mission statement that time, but it made sense in terms of mission statement to delight our consumers one sip, one bite, one exciting experience at a time, that we can achieve the same mission with our Stash Tea flavors. So that was important for us.
Thank you. I want to keep going. Been a couple of questions and a couple of chats, and there's also a couple of pre-questions about challenges. So I guess I'd frame the question this way. What has history not perfected for you through all of this innovation, all of this work that the 11 generations have done, that the future Yamamotoyama CEO, namely the person I'm speaking with globally, will have to? What do you see in the future that you worry about that you know will be on your agenda?
I think pandemic it's a big thing. It was not my agenda. Let's say my audience might be surprised how much localized we are in the United States. I know many audiences in Japan, and we are a traditional Japanese company. But here in the United States, we have no expats besides me, and everybody's in local. Only a few Japanese-speaking reps, and out of 250 employees, and conversations in English, and the culture is completely different. I would say this is a very unique culture that we have, owned by Japanese company. And I don't think my ancestors predicted this, that I'm gonna be in charge of a big company here in the United States, and it's a completely different culture. And I guess my experience in Idaho kind of prepped me in a sense to manage this diverse team and made me strong. I guess I recommend also anyone who wants to expand into a different country with your business, please respect its own culture there. You will never be succeed without respecting that culture, and it's better to blend. It's not gonna be Japanese or American culture. It's gonna be Japanese American culture that we are creating in a company. Did I answer your question?
You did beautifully, but I'll follow on with one very specific question. Might climate change impact the sustainability or growth of the tea industry? And if so, what would the company think about doing about it?
Especially actually nori is harder to control. That nori is harvested in ocean, and ocean is a natural field for us. And every climate change, we get impact. Every season that there's a little disease we have to treat and make sure the nori grows okay. And we can only do little things, make sure that we use less energy in the company. Those little things, that's really important. But tea and nori, I have to say that most natural products that use every single aspect of the plant or the whole thing, or the ingredients. So we don't waste anything. Mottainai, we say in Japan, that we don't waste any of part of the tea or nori. We use every single part of it. And that's a natural mottainai culture that we have. And I think we keep doing that. We keep reducing waste.
I'm going to ask one more question, then I know there's still questions. There are actually, Nami, a number of questions about family businesses, which we'll come to in a moment. But I want to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to go to Gotsu Sensei and ask for his commentary based on what he's studied and what themes he's heard that are common here. But the person who was mentioned earlier in Yuko's introduction, Kika, who introduced you to this seminar, has cold called you to answer this question. If there were one thing you would like to see happening during your reign, what would it be?
I would say a smile for my children taking over the company. I think then I can die with my smile.
So it's all about the 12th generation for the 11th generation. What a nice way to think.
Right.
So let's pause for a moment. I want to turn to our wonderful co-host, Goto Sensei. Goto Sensei, help us diagnose and understand the themes that you heard that relate to all the other companies you've studied.
Thank you very much, Ethan, and thank you very much, Nami-san, for a wonderful presentation. I just like to supplement that with one thing which I found in the two books related to the history of Yamamotoyama. It says, back in the year of 1816, Yamamoto family explicitly established the family constitution, in which they state, our mission is customer first. It's amazing. In the year of 1816, they said customer first. Also, they said we meaning Yamamoto family, should dedicate all of our effort and asset to the development of the society. I think your mission and the value is based upon this, even though you are Americanized. So it's a good combination between the traditional value statement and culture in the United States. So this is the answer to some of the questions which was raised from the floor. In thinking about all this innovate, shouldn't there be any element you choose not to change and preserve? And this such kind of commitment to the society is what you choose not to change. Based on that, I think I like to see your influence is not limited within the United States or overseas, but more globally. I mean, I like to see how you, during your reign, may change the culture of all Yamamotoyama, including Japan. Japan is a kind of conservative. I think one of your mission as a younger generation is to change whole culture of Yamamotoyama, still preserving the tradition of customer first. I think I observe, based upon my research, that quite often long-lived companies such as Yamamotoyama observe or achieve radical change, which are often achieved by some newcomers, diversity. You know, women maybe, younger generation maybe, sometimes outsiders such as adoptees. They make such kind of thing. And I think you're in the ideal position. But you are born in Yamamotoyama, you are expected to reign, and you choose live and educate yourself in the United States. It's a perfect mixture of two different cultures. So within this different culture combination, I like to see you reign to change whole Yamamotoyama. Any comment?
Sure, thank you so much. And that actually pushed me more to succeed. And I would say I'm not trying to be successful. I think it just comes, together with me. Like I'm just trying to make everyone happy and trying to influence little by little. Our goal is not to live long. Our goal is, again, to achieve our mission and vision, make you happy with our tea and seaweed. And I'm not trying to be successful here. So being said, I think there's a lot of challenge. I wouldn't deny for the challenge for being a female leader in expected future. But I would say, I think everyone wish my success, and that basically a power to grow more. And I would say my job is to keep telling the story. I wouldn't want to scare anyone here in the audience, the female leader, that to stay away from that leadership. I would keep telling my wonderful story, how delightful to be in this position instead of how challenging it is, so that I can have more people like wanted to be a female leader. I have to say it's challenging, but it is more enjoyable. It is more rewarding. And don't try to be successful though, because that becomes a pressure. But it is a challenging position. But if you make yourself a unique positioning as a female leader, your success comes together and it's just so rewarding for you. And I will keep telling a story for anyone who has a desire to be a leader, as a female leader in the future.
Thank you very much. It's a very good statement. Couple of questions were raised from the participants about family business and your position in the family and the family business, including succession and so on. Were you selected to be your next leader, or did you volunteer yourself to be a leader?
I guess I get that question all the time. I am only one child. So the path was laid to me as successor. However, my parents never pushed me to be in this lane. So I would say they successfully manipulated me well, unconsciously, to be this position. And I wanted to be this position eventually. So I choose to be. And I think that's family does. I will never pressure my kids, my children, to be a next one if they want to be, but I want them to see me happy every day, even though it's challenging, that making tea and talking to people and having this challenging conversation, and learn from me that this is a wonderful opportunity for them and be the one eventually.
So Goto-sensei and I will go two on one, I suppose we'll do for a moment here. Are there members of the family, one person asked, who are not involved in the business? And how do you manage that aspect of family businesses?
What do you mean? Like I am the only one child. So my father is still there.
But were there, I mean, I don't know, aunts and uncles or other members of the Yamamoto family has anyone chosen not to be a part of the business?
So every family has a different policy or rules per se, and every single family is different, a family business. Our family only immediate DNA blood. That's the policy. That's how we continue to be a family business. But again, every family business is different. I heard a different family that they sometimes compete for the position.
But not in this case. Well, I think that answers the one person's question. Another question, was there ever a time that you didn't want to join the company?
I don't think so. I really truly like tea, actually. I had an internship at a Stash Tea when I was in a college. And actually that made me push into this business. I just wanted to know more about it. So I really enjoyed working here, and there's nothing I don't like. I wish I knew more about the different companies though, I would say, so that I could copy and kind of paste learning from the big companies and apply to the small companies. But we have a lot of team members that coming from the big companies and actually doing that for me. So I am not too worried.
One person asked, and it occurs to me, we didn't really ask you, what is your day-to-day like as the CEO of the USA business?
Right now, it's really busy because of pandemic. Right now, I think it's crazy busy because every day that LA County updates the protocol and we have to follow that and make sure everybody's safe. So right now, I would say people are worried 1.5 years ago that, are they going to keep their job? Are we still okay to work here every day, face to face? So I have to go back to my employees, we are safe and we are doing this together. So I have to do a lot of campaigns internally, how to create a safe environment for employees. I did that a lot for 1.5 years in the past. But now I'm going back to more regular work, which is a face of the company, like this opportunity we have, and keep telling us stories about our history and be authentic about the brand.
One of the attendees asked, he's interested to know more about how you work to build the mixed company culture you talked about earlier and that you're also talking about now. Any secrets to that? Because that's something many companies struggle with, especially family businesses.
I think I already said it, but to respect our own culture, that we have a lot of Hispanic employees, for example, that they like something else than Japanese people do. And we have a lot of different culture employees, and I do listen to them, what do they like, and we get excited about something new, actually. So I would say the feedback is really important. Always listen to employees, and even though you don't speak their languages, just do the body languages and dance, try to smile. Don't be afraid not to talk to them. I would say that's the best advice.
Fabulous. There's one question that's sort of different from the rest, and you sort of mentioned it, but it's actually referencing a number of tea companies. One attendee wants to understand why both you and other tea companies in Japan seem to sell both tea and nori. Is there something that brings those two particular items together within one roof?
It's a great point, actually. We are the first company, I believe, start selling the combination of nori and green tea. I don't know why they do that. I think they copy us in many sense. But we start selling nori and green tea together, and many companies found that that's a good combination. And maybe I didn't mention in the last slide, but the seaweed season is in fall, autumn, and Shincha green tea is in April. And we only harvest one time a year. So it's a seasonally good as well, meaning we keep our warehouse busy. So it's a good combination. It's like a ski and swim club. But I like the question. Thank you for asking that.
Sensei, any other additional questions?
Yes, I can add one more point to your question of the relationship between the seaweed, nori, and the cha tea. And another company added one more thing, which is coffee. What is common among these three? Fire. Technologically, this is one thing. Another thing is marketing-wise, as you said, distribution and so on.
Sorry, your question is between the seaweed, green tea, and the coffee, what's common in terms of technology and distribution?
It's not my question. It's answer to supplement your question. Answer.
Oh, okay.
The fire is something in common.
Let me ask one more question, Nami. So Paul Krieger actually asked a very specific question. Can you talk about what kind of person your grandfather was, if that's not too personal? But maybe I can broaden it to say not just that, but as you discuss this, you talk about the 9th generation, the 10th generation, as if they have a personality, which I guess they did. Can you speak a little bit to how, if there are themes to the various generations of leaders that what those have been?
Oh yeah, I mean, every single leader is different and has a different lifestyle. So we have a history book that story tells from first generation to the, I guess, 9th. And actually, my grandfather is a 9th generation, and he passed away in December, last December. I would say he is a legend, at least for me, that he was the most Japanese man you can imagine after World War II, like Ike man, kind of like, I don't know how to say in English, sorry, but go kind of guy. We grow so much with him in the company. The nori seaweed was so popular. He expanded into US. He fly everywhere in the world to find the best climate for Japanese green tea. Like, even like, but from Brazil, Sri Lanka, Vietnam to everywhere without just, with a small plane, small car. And he was so adventurous, I have to say, and he loves to, do many dangerous stuff and exciting stuff. And he failed many things, and he was amazing. After he was a legend for me and for the company.
Thank you, and I think Paul would thank you for that. I think we have time for one more question as we start to wrap up. I know we're close to time. I mean, this has been amazing, and there's so much energy. I can tell you, we still have 14 open questions. We've answered 12. There's so much engagement. Thank you to the audience, and thank you, Nami, for making that possible.
Oh, thank you.
Masayuki Omoto-san asked early on, in thinking about always innovating, shouldn't there be elements you choose not to change and preserve? Long-lived Japanese companies are always looking for this answer between what you preserve and what you change. I'm curious, this entire series is about the secret of sustainability. What's the secret?
Oh, you know the secret? I mean, if you know the secret, I think that's it. I don't think anybody knows the secret, Ethan. We are trying to find one. And it's always with you. You know the answer, each of you in the audience. But I would say, make sure you find the purpose and always stick with the one you find. Remembering our history, learning from the past, and making decisions based on a mission and vision. That's very important. And again, the feedback. Customer first, as Goto Sensei mentioned in the beginning, I will say the feedback. I will translate it into the feedback that always ask more. Don't hesitate to ask stupid questions. I put in a position always that I don't hesitate to ask any questions, even that's stupid. I repeat to myself, like, are you asking this? Are you asking that? And I look stupid. I don't care. Learning is a lifetime journey, and always ask questions and feedback from your consumers, customers, friends, colleagues, anybody around you.
With that, so there's a tradition I have in my classroom. So it's what we have in common, Nami, actually. Your institution, your company, and my institution both existed before the United States. I noticed that as you trace back 330 years, you go back further than we do. So tradition in my classroom is I end most sessions by asking the moral to the story. So first I'll tell you a little bit what I heard, and then I'm going to turn to you and ask you your moral to the story for, I think your husband and 2 children are listening as they play together, but also for all of our listeners, especially perhaps to Yuko's point earlier, the women who might be thinking about being future leaders. But here's what I heard. But we talked about you first. We talked about your first job. We talked about the Doko Demodor.
Oh, you can write in Japanese.
Oh, I'm giving away my secrets now. We talked about your move from overseas in Japan to marketing, and then ultimately to being CEO of the United States. And we talked about your move from being born in Tokyo to Hawaii to Idaho, back to Tokyo, back to LA, and your desire to sort of go back and forth, and how you brought all of that into this goal of purpose. You say it's the company's purpose, but I actually sense it's your purpose to bring delight. And how the company's done that over 330 years informs how you do it. And some of the innovations we see about trying to keep the business going, like the 9th generation's move into nori, shows us how sometimes the struggle yields interesting and good results. But if you think about Goto Sensei's statement that the traditional value statement plus culture plus keeping an idea in the customer first, sustainability, I want to add actually that there's an amazing connection between that and the leader. And that is, I think today was more about leadership than innovation. I think it's a lot of this is actually about you. And so I'm grateful to you for showing us what it means to lead as the 11th generation with 10 generations behind you and many more generations to come. So that's my moral of the story, is that it all comes together when the person and the company come together. And I think you've illustrated that beautifully. That's the Harvard professor talking. Now I turn to you and ask you, what's your moral of the story? What should we all take away from you? If there were one thing you wish that the future leaders out there, including the 12th generation listening, were to know, what would you like them to hear?
Okay, I would say make sure you find something unique yourself. That unique positioning is something that a lot of Japanese people are missing, especially in Japanese educational culture, that we try to collaborate so much and cooperate so much that you don't make yourself different from others, and you're okay to be different. And that's something I suffer a lot in Japan back in the days, that I was so unique in my early childhood. I didn't feel like I suit in Japan. So I studied abroad and I found myself more interesting there. They're more fit. But I can tell a lot of my people that make sure that you find something unique. Each style is different. Everyone is different, and don't be same with any previous leaders, and find strengths, be best of it. Audience, many of you found this presentation or seminar interesting because I am the female leader with multi-generational company and Asian minor young generation. So I found that's a big unique niche for me, representing myself. And that's how I can succeed, if I can succeed. So find something unique to you that's different from anyone around you, anyone in the world, and be the best at it.
Those are great words to end on. I want to again thank you. Thank you, Goto Sensei. Thank you to our wonderfully energized and engaged audience. Go ahead and give Nami some applause on the chat, and we will go ahead and do so here. Thank you so much, Nami.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today. I wish it's alive, but I'm so happy. I'm so proud to be here, and I'm really happy to see everyone in the chat as well. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so very much, Nami-san, Ethan, and Goto Sensei, for fascinating, fabulous conversation. And we love your conclusion, Ethan, like leadership innovation and your comments, and Nami-san's comments back. And you, Nami-san, you are talented, young, and visionary, and happily married with 2 children. You were taking care of your family as well. So you're really a role model, mentor for many young people, women and men equally. So really appreciate it. And what a engaging audience that we've had. Thank you so much. It's one of the most interactive and lively chats that we received. And mind you, we host so many webinars like this. So thank you so very much. And I hope that we'll be able to do in person. We do have an event hall in Hollywood. So in the future, when things turn better, we invite back all of you. And the audience will be served with tea, Yamamotoyama tea, and it will be really fun to do that. So thank you very much. And we're planning to have the third webinar of the series by the end of the year, inviting different guests. So please stay tuned. When you exit the program, the audience will be redirected to our survey page. Please take a moment to fill it out so that we can continue providing you with high quality content that is relevant to your interest. Please also follow us on social media platforms at Japan House LA to stay up to date on our events and programs. I'm also excited to inform you that we'll be opening the new exhibition this Saturday, a couple of days after today, on September 18th. The exhibition is entitled Wave, New Currents in Japanese Graphic Arts, which features 55 Japanese graphic artists and illustrators. So I hope to get to see you there. and of course, virtually online as well. I hope to get to see you again soon. Thank you so much.